Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Skeins of Dreams knitting podcast. I'm Megha. I'm also known as Skeins of Dreams on Instagram and on Ravelry. And this is the corner of YouTube where I share my knitting and making journey with all of you. It's been a while. I'm usually a 2 week podcaster. Every 2 weeks I release an episode, but as if you've been following along and watched my previous episode, you know that I'm in the middle of a move. So, and last weekend we were traveling to visit my friend in Cleveland, so I didn't get a chance to podcast until today. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, and it's a day off for me, so I decided that I have some time. I can quickly record an episode because my knitting is catching up with me. I have a lot to talk about, so I thought today is a really nice day. My hair looks pretty decent, so I can come record a podcast and release the episode whenever I get done editing it. So, yep, that's the plan for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for checking out my video. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for all your love and support. And my previous video was the Hobby yarn review one, and I got such beautiful comments on that video. And if you watched that video before, you knew that I was doing a giveaway, and I have the giveaway winners picked out. I just did that before I recorded today, so you did get like 2.5 weeks to comment on that video. So thank you so much for commenting, and I got a lot of wishes congratulating me and Baljeet on getting our new house. So thank you so much. Like I mentioned, we're in the middle of packing, so we're packing up stuff slowly. Next month, that is mid-April is when we're actually moving, but we had a lot of stuff that needed to get packed away so that the move can be a little more easy. we just have to move all the boxes into the truck and everything, so we've been diligent and we've started packing. And of course I had to pack all my yarn, and that is going to be a whole single trip in itself. I'm planning to shift all my precious yarn in my car. I'm not gonna take it in the truck with other furniture. The first thing I did was actually go through a lot of my pending projects, go through my stash, see if I wanted to like give something away or get rid of some stuff. And then yesterday I actually vacuum packed some of my yarn, but the moment I did that, I got so nervous that I'm ruining the yarn by like vacuum packing it. So basically, if you don't know, if you've not done vacuum packing before, you just put stuff into like a plastic bag, and then there is like a pump that helps you. It's just a pump with a hand, like you can do it with your hand. You just suck the air out of the bag, so that condenses everything, and so there's no air, and so it occupies less space. We did that to all my yarn yesterday, but then I got really nervous whether I'm doing something wrong. I shouldn't be ruining my yarn like that. So this morning, the first thing I did, I woke up and I opened one of the bags to just make sure that everything like goes back to normal, and that made me feel a little better. But yeah, you can bet that the day I move my yarn, I'm going to open up all my vacuum sealed bags and then just let the yarn breathe, and I will be less worried that I'm doing something wrong and that I'm ruining my yarn. So yep, that's what's been happening. And as I mentioned, last Saturday we went to Cleveland. We drove to Cleveland to visit my friend and her husband. So our friends live there, and they're going to move to India soon for an extended period of time. So we thought we should take the opportunity to go see them and just like hang out, and that's what we did. Since we were traveling, I didn't get a chance to record this episode, and so I thought I'd come today and do it. So yeah, I think we should move on to the knitting content. And I guess the first thing is, what am I wearing? So you've seen this before. If you watch my previous episodes, you've seen this definitely before. I'm just re-wearing one of my makes that I've shown already. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. Just that this is the Seasons sweater by Haley, who's the designer behind Zata knitwear. This is my very comfortable lounge sweater, so I just like throw this on whenever I feel like being a little more dressed up than just wearing pajamas. So that's what I did. I'm just wearing my lounge pants underneath this, and I thought I'd throw on a sweater, and that's what I did. So it's not a new sweater that I'm showing. I do have a few that I've not worn and I've not shown them to you, but they are in various stages of being packed up. So I only have my most worn or very easy to wear sweaters out, because we are also moving into spring. So I'm not wearing my very woolly sweaters anymore. This is very woolly, but for some reason it's very easy breathing sweater, so I don't feel too hot in it. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I have talked about it in at least 2 other episodes. It's there in my 2021 sweater roundup video as well. So yep, this is my season sweater, and I knit this in the Rerum Natura Gilead in the caramel color. Alright, I don't have any finished objects, so I think let's start my whip parade. Okay, so the first project I'm going to talk about is a project that everybody seemed to have really liked and appreciated in my previous episode. I did not expect this one to be so popular, but everyone really liked the sweater and they commented so much on it. So this is the Nele sweater by Gregoria Fibers. As I was giving my hobby review, I was talking about having some confusion with ordering the yarn, and then I ended up casting on the Nele sweater in 3 hobby yarns held together. So they are the Hobby Diablo, which is the mohair and nylon blend yarn. So I have 2 strands of the Hobby Diablo held with 1 strand of Hobby Evergreen, which is 100% organic wool. And this is the Nele sweater. So as you can see, I'm very close to finishing the body. Initially, I was planning I'll wait to record this podcast until I finish the body of the sweater, but it's okay. I can show my works in progress, right? Like, I don't have to finish it still has to get sleeves on it, so finishing the body wouldn't have added anything to it. So yeah, so this is where I am. I think I'm about 11 inches. For me, the magic number for the length of my body is 13 inches. So I have 2 more inches to go, and then I can bind off the body. This is a 3x1 rib, twisted stitches. So the knits are twisted, and it's a simple raglan construction. I really like this raglan detail, like I was mentioning before. So last time I decided to hold the 3 yarns together. I cast on the sweater, I was working through it, and then I realized my gauge is very different from the gauge that's mentioned in the pattern. And I am usually, when I'm casting on something for myself, it's not a test knit, I'm not super worried about gauge unless it's like sweater construction that cannot be fixed as we're knitting it. Because this is a raglan, you can just stop doing the raglan increases whenever it is close to fitting your body, and then figure out how many stitches to cast on under the arm. So that's what I did. Like, I was doing my raglan increases, and then I decided to stop and kind of measure my gauge. So my gauge was definitely way off. Like, I think the pattern gauge is 19 stitches and 4 inches, and I was getting 16. And that's because I think the pattern asks for 3 mohair yarns, but I'm holding 2 mohair and 1 fingering, and the loft that's coming from that fingering might be quite a bit. Or I'm just a loose knitter, and so I'm getting a much larger gauge. So I had to just figure out how many stitches, how many raglan increases I needed to do, and then how many stitches to cast on under the arm for making the body fit. So while I was doing that, I kind of had this epiphany about the way sweaters fit me, and I realized that what happens to me most of the time is that this distance, the raglan distance from my neck to my underarm, is much smaller than the standard size for a size that is okay. I need to figure out how to explain this well. So my bust is, for example, 47 inches. When I'm picking a sweater size, I look at the finished garment circumference. So it's, say, I want to knit a sweater that finishes to give me 48 inches circumference. While that satisfies the chest requirement, the sweater is too big for my shoulders on the top because my shoulders are not as big as my bust. So what happens is I kind of have to grade between sizes, and I kind of realized this mostly because I've also been sewing a little, so my size for my shoulders is smaller than the size I need for my bust. And that's pretty much what happened with this sweater. When I realized my gauge was much larger, I had to recalculate, do the math to figure out how many raglan increases I would need. And because I don't need a lot of raglan increases to increase from my neck to my chest, I end up having to put more stitches or cast on more stitches under my arm to suddenly give me, my shoulder is not big enough, but then my chest is a lot bigger, so I have to add more stitches under the arm to compensate for that. I think I'm confusing everybody. I don't know if I've said it the right way, but basically what I've realized is that my shoulders are not as big as my chest needs to be. So if I have to make the 48-inch size for my bust, I have to make a 43-inch size for my shoulders because my upper bust or my measurement here is only 43 inches. So I kind of have to grade between sizes. So I can't really just follow the standard size and expect the garment to fit me really well, because what happens if I follow the standard size and I make a 48-inch sweater from start to finish, I end up with a sleeve that's too big for me, and I end up with like a lot of bulk in this area, which if it's a yoked sweater can sometimes result in puckering. So anyway, you would think that I'm knitting a simple raglan sweater, which was supposed to be my mindless knit, but then it took me into this rabbit hole of figuring out why my sizes are so different and why, for example, I always complain about raglan cardigans not fitting me really well because they fall off my shoulders, and it's just suddenly hit me that that's what's happening because I'm only looking at the bust circumference and making the 48-inch sized sweater. I'm not accounting for the fact that my shoulders are not 48 inches or like half of that. So I'm making a much bigger size for my shoulders, and that's why they're falling off my shoulders. So what I should be doing is cast on a smaller size on the top and then figure out how to increase that to give me the bust size that I need. So basically put more cast on stitches under my arm. Anyway, so that's a whole thing, and I'll talk more about that as I make other sweaters, because now that I've suddenly figured this out, or it was quite obvious and I just realized it for some reason, I want to make a raglan cardigan. And I want to make it right. I want to grade between sizes so that I get the best fit for my body. So I went off on a whole tangent about sweater fit. I was showing you the Nele sweater. So yep, that's where I am. And I have been working on a lot of projects simultaneously. That's just where I am mentally, but I do want to finish this one. So now I'm going to focus on getting this done, because even though I'll get it done now, I won't be able to wear it until the next season, because it's going to be a very warm and chunky sweater, and I really want to cast on some summer knits. So I'm just patiently working through this one so that I can move on to some fun summer knits that do not have sleeves. That is so exciting for me. But yeah, so this is my Nele sweater, and it's like I said, it's Hobby Diablo, 2 strands held with 1 strand of Hobby Evergreen. And I think I mentioned the colors before. So the Diablo, I'm using 1 strand of lilac and 1 gray or silver, I think it's called. Let me show you the colors. So these are the colors. So I have 1 strand of lilac, 1 strand of, I think this is silver, it just says color 5 on this, and then I have 1 strand of a light gray fingering weight. So these 3 are my colors that I'm holding together, and yep, that's my Nele sweater. Okay, so that was work in progress number 1. The next work in progress, if you saw my previous episode, you know that I cast on for the Marit cardigan. This is a cardigan designed by Kristin Drysdale, and it was published in a Liner magazine. So this was my project that I showed you the last time. I cast on the Marit. This is a steeked cardigan, hence it's in a huge tube. So these are my steek stitches in the center, and this is what I showed you the last time. I knew my gauge and I picked a size that would give me a finished garment of 53 inches. That is 6 inches larger than my bust size. So this cardigan would have given me 6 inches of positive ease. And while I was showing this on camera, I realized that I don't want a sweater to be this big. So what I did was I took out my most loose fitting sweater and I laid it on the ground, and I laid this against that, and I saw how much bigger this was going to be, and I realized that my most loose sweater is only like 50 or 51 inches, which this might be. So this sweater would have been even looser than this one. So I decided that I wasn't interested in such a large sweater. That was not it. I mean, it would have looked fine, I guess, but I just didn't want that big of a sweater. That's not my style. I usually stay within 2 to 3 inches of positive ease, so I didn't really want such a large sweater. So what I did was, instead of ripping out that one, I kind of just cast on another. So all the crinkles, it was just sitting in my project bag, hence all the crinkles. So you can see this is how far I've got on my new Marit, and if I hold it up, that fits me really well. Like, at least the width is pretty good, and actually this is like a little scrunched up on the needles, but if I put it on 2 needles, it's a little bigger, so that actually I think will give me a nicer fit. And as you can see, if you saw my last episode, I was talking about using this salmon pink. Initially I was only going to do it in the steel and the salmon pink, but then I felt when I made it, I felt that the salmon pink was a little too bright. So what I ended up doing is I added this gold to it, and the plan was to do 3 repeats of the gold and then 1 repeat of the salmon pink. So I've just finished that. I've done 1 salmon pink, 3 of the gold, and the next time this motif comes, I'll add the salmon pink. So this is the Marit cardigan, and I think it's coming along really well. I'm happy with my color work tension. It could be a little better, but I haven't blocked it, and I'm sure once I block it, it will bloom really pretty. And I think the issue is also that this gold yarn is actually holstered super soft, and the other yarns are Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift and Jamieson's and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. So the Jamieson and Smith and Jamieson's of Shetland, they are loftier than the holstered super soft from the ball or from the cone, but when you wash it and the holstered loses its spinning oil, it actually fluffs up really well. So right now the gauge might seem like it's a little off, but I'm sure once I wash it, it'll be fine. Yep, so that's the progress on my Marit cardigan. I'm really happy with this. This is giving me all the spring vibes, and I'm so glad that I restarted and I'm doing it in a smaller size. And I'm glad I started with the body because I feel like the body will take me the longest, but then the sleeves will be so quick. So I'm doing all the heavy work in the beginning. When I do top-down sweaters, I feel like I go through all the shaping and everything quickly, and then it's just miles and miles and miles of body knitting. But this is bottom up, so I'm actually enjoying that for a change, and I get to do all the massive work in the beginning, and then I can do the fun work at the end where I'm doing all the finishing, and that kind of goes by quickly. And once you're done with all the knitting, I kind of like the I'm enjoying that I switched it up and I'm doing a bottom-up sweater. So yeah, that's my Marit cardigan. Alright, so I do have works in progress that are blanket make-along projects, but I think I'm gonna leave a section to the end that is the blanket make-along section, and I'll just talk about my third active work in progress, which by the way is another sweater. So I don't know how I ended up with 3 huge projects on the go, which is really bugging me now. I wish I had thought of planning them better, but for some reason I have 3 sweater rips going on right now. And blankets, so none of them are small projects. Everything is a massive project. So if you're a knitter, you would have heard of the boyfriend curse. So for those of you who don't know, some knitters, a lot of knitters, strongly believe in the boyfriend curse. The concept is that if you have a boyfriend right now and you decide to knit him a sweater, I don't know if this happens the other way around. Does it happen if you have a girlfriend? Not sure. It's called the boyfriend curse. So basically, if you knit a sweater for the person you're dating, let's just say that, by the time you finish the sweater, there's a good chance that you've broken up with them. So a lot of knitters don't like to knit sweaters for their boyfriends. Apparently it's not a husband curse, so you can knit it when you're married to the person, but you can't knit a sweater for them if you're just dating them. Now, of course, this is a superstition, but I can call it a superstition because I personally don't believe in this, but a lot of people, a lot of knitters do. So I have a very good friend of mine who actually I went to Rhinebeck with, Rita. If you watched my Rhinebeck episode, you would have seen Rita. So Rita's boyfriend is a very knit-worthy person. She makes him a lot of socks, cowls, gloves, you name it. He has all the accessories, but he really wants a sweater, and she does not want to knit him a sweater because of the boyfriend curse. Now I know Rita for over 3 years, and she has been talking about the boyfriend curse and not being able to make her boyfriend a sweater for a really long time. And she was talking about it again a few weeks ago when I stopped her. I paused, I interrupted her, and I was like, look, I know you've been saying this to me for the last 3 years. If you would have cast on a sweater 3 years ago, you're still with the guy. Like, he could have had a sweater. But apparently that's not how the boyfriend curse works. So anyway, long story short, I offered to make a sweater for Rita's boyfriend. Because we're such good friends, and because I know he is extremely knit-worthy, he loves hand knits, and I'm friends with him as well, so I know him, and I said, okay, let me do this, let me make him a sweater, and in return you can make something for me. So we will exchange projects, you don't have to knit a sweater for your boyfriend. I can knit a sweater for my friend. And you make me something in return. And Rita really liked this idea. She jumped at it, and she picked out a sweater. She ordered the yarn arrived here, and I cast on this beautiful sweater for Rita's boyfriend. So that's how I ended up with my third sweater work in progress. Now this sweater is called the Metenis Pullover, and I think the designer goes by Zanete Knits. I'm gonna put the name on the screen. If I've messed up, I'm sorry. But it's a very nice colorwork sweater, very graphic, and the person I'm knitting this for is a big video game enthusiast. So the color selection was based on that fact that he's a big, because the color is going to be really spectacular, and you'll see in just a minute. So the main color is this Cascade Superwash 220 in the color Jet. This is a nice charcoal black. This is the first time I'm knitting with Cascade 220, and I must say I really like it. Especially for guy sweaters, I would love to use this because it seems like it's a workhorse yarn, and guys are so rough on their sweaters, so I think this will make a really nice sweater for them. I mean, in the future, if I want to make another sweater for Mr. Skeins of Dreams. So yeah, this is the Cascade 220 in the color Jet. And the contrast color is this beautiful bright neon green, and it's a matte Tosh DK. So it's a Tosh DK, and the color is called Sea Glass. So this is the contrast, and this is the main color. And I have finished the yoke. I'm only knitting the second size, so the yoke was kind of quick. So here is the progress on the sweater, and can you see the color work there? It's so graphic and so pretty. I really like this. I've just finished the color work. If you saw the picture I put on the screen, there is also color work on the body and sleeves after you divide for the body and sleeves, and there is no gap between the color work in the yoke and the color work on the body. So what I'm supposed to do is basically start knitting the next row in color work and then split for sleeves. So cast on stitches under the arm, continue color work, and then do the second round of color work, and that's how the body continues. But look at that. I have not blocked it yet. This is just off the needles, like it's on my needles, and I'm sure. So I swatched for the sweater because of course this is not a sweater for me, so I can't be careless about it, and I want it to fit our friend really well. So I swatched for it. I really love how this motif is appearing, and yep, I'm very happy about this. And this reminds me of the Matrix, or of like those really old computers they would show in the 90s when you're typing and it all appears in green. So that's how it looks to me, and it's so cool even at the back. I'm really enjoying this. So so Rita's boyfriend is really into video games and such, so he is going to very much appreciate the spectacular sweater that this will be. So I just cast on, and before the color work there is some very little short row shaping at the back here, and then you start this pattern, and then you go back and pick up the collar. And I think I have not read through the instructions, but I think you do a tubular cast off, like a tubular cast off with the contrast color. So even though you'll do the ribbing in black, the cast off 2 rows will be in the green, and that's how the neck and the sleeves, everything are cast off. The hem is cast off like that. So this is the Metenis pullover, and I'm so pleased with how this is turning out. This is actually like a fun project. The only thing, like the Marit for example, is just a simple repeat. Like you can memorize 1, 2, 3 2 1 2 3 3 2 1 2 3, and so you can just knit it like that. This one on the other hand is somewhat similar to when you knit colorwork gloves or mitts. The repeat, it's symmetric over the center line, but then it's not intuitive. So based on the previous row, you can't really tell what the next row is supposed to be. So you kind of have to pay attention a little, and that's why I've been going a little slow, but I'm really enjoying it. It's very, very pretty, and this is so graphic, and I really like knitting for other people sometimes because I would never knit a sweater like this for myself in this color, but it's so much fun to do it. And so I really like that I'm knitting it for someone and I'm getting the joy of knitting it, and then they will have a sweater they like. So that's the Metenis pullover, and I'm really enjoying working with the yarn. This is all superwash yarn, so it's very different. It feels very different on my hands as compared to the Marit, for example, because this one it's just superwash, so the feel is different, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the color work. So my desires for color work this year are definitely being fulfilled. Oh, I completely forgot to mention what is Rita knitting for me in exchange for the Metenis pullover. So I had this beautiful poncho picked out, and it was in my queue for a really long time. It's called the Campsite Poncho. I think I'll put the name on the screen. It's by Alicia Plummer, and I really wanted to knit it at some point, but given that we were doing this project exchange and I could not justify casting on another project for myself, but I could justify a gift knit. So I commissioned Rita to knit that poncho for me, and she's in fact finished knitting it. Like, it's done. It needs to be blogged. I don't have it on me because she just finished it 2 days ago and I haven't been to work this week yet. So tomorrow I get to go and actually get the poncho from Rita, so you'll have to wait for the next episode to actually see it. But it's a beautiful poncho. I'll put a picture on the screen, and Rita, because she's a monogamous knitter, the real monogamous knitter kinds, not like me with my 3 to 4 projects, is a monogamous knitter. She's an actual, for real monogamous knitter. She finished it, and it's so pretty, and I can't wait to go and try it on. But yeah, that was our excellent and very successful 50% is already successful because Rita finished her portion of it, and I'm close to dividing for sleeves and mine. But to be honest, yes, she knitted faster, but she had the yarn in her hands the day after we decided, because I already had my yarn. I mean, I don't have to buy any yarn, I own so much of it. So I just wound the skeins and gave her the yarn I wanted to use. But she had to order yarn for knot sweaters, so she had to place an order and I had to wait for the yarn to arrive and all of that. Anyway, long story short, or long story long, Rita's finished her end of the bargain. Yep, so those were all my sweater works in progress. And to talk about my blanket works in progress, let's talk about the blanket make-along. So I'm going to repeat myself a little about the blanket make-along, but I'm hosting a year-long blanket make-along, and the point is for everyone to get out all their whips or to cast on new blankets that they'd like, and for all of us to just work on these projects together. And I have created a Ravelry group where we can talk about if you'd like to chat about it on Ravelry. I also have a Slack group going where we can share pictures and talk about the projects we're working on, or just talk about in general, whatever you feel like. So if you'd like to join either the Slack or the Ravelry group, the links should be in the description box. If you can't find the link for whatever reason, just send me an email on skeins-of-dreams-knits@gmail.com and I will send you the appropriate links. And so for the blanket make-along, I have so many plans for this year, especially with the new house and everything, and we'll be moving. I really want to fill the house with a lot of hand knits. So I have a lot of sweaters for myself. So what's next? It's blankets. I love having a good throw on the couch when we're just sitting watching movies, hanging out with the cats. So I really wanted some knitted stuff. I mean, I used to have crochet blankets on my couch, but when the cats were younger, Mango ate some of my blankets. Like, he chewed holes through them, and I realized it's because I had used a lot of acrylic yarn, and as I was washing and drying the yarn, the plastic had melted because I used to just put it in my washer and dryer. So the plastic had melted and formed these tough spots, which Mango has some behavioral issue. He really loves to chew on stuff. So he just chewed through those areas. And so I threw away those crochet blankets because I didn't really want him to fall sick. And I made quilts that I use as throws right now, but I seriously want a very nice knitted, multiple knitted blankets, clearly. So I cast on, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of host my first make along. So however you want to make a blanket, you want to knit it, crochet it, quilt it, whatever you want to do, weave it, I guess. I don't know, do you weave blankets? I need to find out. So however you want to get to a blanket, you're free to participate in the make along, and there is no requirement to finish any project. Just come have fun. That's all it is about. So hold on, I have been talking for so long, I need a sip of water. So I have planned at least 5 projects for this blanket make along during the course of this year, and I am actively working on 3. Don't ask me how many works in progress I've got. It's insane. I need to like take stock of everything I'm working on and try to finish things so that, but that's the problem. The moment I finish one thing, I cast on another thing, so it's like a never-ending cycle. Anyways, so I have some active projects, and one of them, which I've talked about before because everyone in the knitting community is knitting this. This is the Half and Half Triangles wrap by Pearl Soho, and I've made a little bit of progress on my Half and Half Triangles wrap. As a good podcaster, I'm in the middle of a row, so this is all you get to see. It's just folded in half, like it's over here, so I'm just like holding my needles in half, but that's the progress I've made. I'm knitting this in Pearl Soho's linen quill, which is the recommended yarn, and this is the red poppy color. My second contrast color with this is the purple smoke, and I'm gonna put a picture. I don't have that skein on me right now, but I'm at a good checkpoint because this is skein number 2. So I finished the first skein, which is like insane because I was like, how does one get through 6 skeins of yarn? I don't know. But clearly I finished one. So this is my skein number 2, and I really enjoy this project. Like, this is a good mindless knit, and every time I'm in front of the TV and watching something and I kind of don't want to pay attention to what I'm knitting on, or when I went to visit my friends over the weekend and we were talking, but since I'm a knitter, I can't sit idle and my hands have to keep working. This was a great project to take with me, and I think that's why I finished one skein as well, because all weekend long I didn't have the brain space to work on any of my other color work projects, so I was just like doing garter on this one. And this yarn is amazing. It makes it so addictive. Like, it's definitely potato chippy, but then I'm only 1 skein down. By the time I'm like 5 skeins down, I probably will be, let's see if I'll be sick of it. But as everyone says, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Is that what they say? I guess so. Is it a cross country? I don't know. Alright, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So if I'm supposed to knit on this peacefully on the side while other projects get done. So, I mean, if you look at it, I've got a lot of knitting done. I've made substantial progress on all of my projects. It's just that I have not finished any one. If I had put all that energy into one project, I would have finished it by now. But it's okay. I'm cool with having multiple whips. So this is one of my blanket make-along projects. So here it is. That's the half and half triangle strap by Pearl Soho. And then the next one is something you have not seen before because I cast it on between my last episode and this one. Or did I cast on before? I don't remember. And everybody is making this as well. So you all must have heard of the Pressed Flowers shawl by Amy Christophers of Savory Knitting. And here is my pressed flowers. So this is supposed to be a shawl pattern, but it's knit in DK weight and it's mosaic knitting. Sorry, there's like fluff on my face. So mosaic knitting gives a very dense fabric, and DK mosaic that would have made a really warm shawl. And I like shawls, but I prefer fingering weight shawls, just because I wear a lot of sweaters and I really then don't want like a big DK weight shawl around my neck. So what I decided, I really love the pattern and I had all this blanket mojo going on. So I decided that I would convert my pressed flowers shawl into a throw. So that's my plan. What I did was I bought enough yarn for 2 shawls basically. And the idea is that I'm going to knit 2 of these and then join them along the long edge. And I'll have a square. And that'll be perfect. And the point is to do a mirror image. So the first shawl I make with the white as the main color and the gold or mustard as the contrast. And the next shawl will be flipped. Gold will be the main color and white will be the contrast. And then once I finish them, I'm just going to join them along the long edge. And that'll be a huge lap blanket. And that'll be so much fun. So for this project, I bought Drops Alaska yarn. So I'm using these 2 colors of Drops Alaska. This is called Mustard. I don't remember the number, I'll put the number on the screen. And I think this color is called Pearl, and this is the number 69, color number 69. I think Mustard is 57, maybe, I'll put it on the screen. So these are my colors for the pressed flowers. And I'm extremely happy with how it's looking, of course. And of course, because the shawl is supposed to be knit in DK, but Drops Alaska is like almost an Aran weight. I'm using 5.5 millimeter or US 9 needles for this. So I just randomly decided, oh, it's an Aran weight. What needle size should I use with it? 9, okay. And then I cast it on in 9. I have no idea how big this is going to turn out. I have purchased sufficient yarn, in my opinion, sufficient for 2 big shawls that I can join along the long edge. We'll see as we get there. What I plan to do is at least work 1 shawl until I'm halfway through the yarn and then use the other half of the yarn for the other shawl. And then if it's not big enough, we'll see what happens. Maybe I can make 2 more triangles and make it a huge square by joining all the triangles at their apex. Some math problem for us. So anyway, that is another entry, my entry into the blanket make along. So I am still working on the quadrangle spires by Stephen West, and I have been making progress on it, but it's just that I'm making slow progress, and I could show it to you, but it's not that much more than what I was doing before. So I plan to show it at least when I have 1 wing done. but that's one project that's going on, and then these two. So along with my 3 sweater projects, I have 3 blanket projects going. This is a lot of knitting, and that's why I don't have like finished objects, but I'm not gonna beat myself up about that because just last episode I had a whole finished sweater, so it's okay if we don't finish things on schedule. Plus, as I said, I'm not doing any test knits I'm trying not to do any test knits, and I have not signed up for any, so I've been good with that. And because I don't have deadlines, I'm free to do whatever I feel like. So yeah, so those were my blanket projects. And all of you who have been using the hashtags on Instagram, by the way, the hashtag is hashtag blankets of dreams MAL, and the finished object hashtag is blankets of dreams MALFO. And a lot of you are knitting blankets, and I know a lot of my friends who are also podcasters are talking about it on their episodes, and I'm so grateful and thankful for all of you who have given me a shout out. I know Amy Palco of the Meaningful Stitches knitting one, Selma of Little Big Knits, Nikki of Knitting with Cat Hair podcast, and even Inga of Knitting Traditions mentioned it on her episode. And I know my friend Anina from Annuity Knits is knitting one. Oh my god, I'm definitely going to skip a few, and I'm really sorry if I have not. Oh yes, Ailey from the Thoughtful Knitter. And yeah, a lot of people are knitting blankets, and I'm super excited about that. And thank you so much for everyone who mentioned me in their podcast, and I'm really thankful and grateful for that. Ooh, and Natasha and Petra from the Knit Inc. podcast also mentioned the blanket make along. So thank you everyone who spoke about it on their podcasts. And I'm sure I have missed out people, and I'm gonna put the names on screen if I've missed out. I'm really sorry. I should have done my homework and kind of made a list and then spoken about everyone properly. But yeah, but this, like I said, is an impromptu recording of podcast, so I am not very prepared today. What else? Okay. Because I'm hosting the make along, I did also mention that any business owners, small business owners that would like to donate prizes for this make along could reach out to me and donate some prizes. So I have received 4 people who've reached out to me so far. One of them is Selena of the Through the Wardrobe Yarn company. She also hosts the knitting podcast Through the Wardrobe Yarn Knits. And Selena very generously is donating, I think, 6 minis or like half an advent to the prizes, which is an amazing and so generous of her. And I think because that's such a massive prize, I'm going to use that as, so my plan was to have a prize 3 months, 6 month, 9 month and 12 month mark. And of course the 6 months and the 12 month mark will be like the grand bigger prizes. So on the 6 month mark is when I can maybe give out Selena's mini advent, and of course I'll talk to Selena and figure out what her schedule is. And then for the 3 month and the 9 month mark, I have few businesses who are donating patterns, and then I have a couple of very beautiful local to United States project bag makers. So firstly, I'm going to show bags by Susan Smith, who is the designer or the project bag, who's the maker behind the Etsy store called Delightful Works. Susan makes beautiful bags, and she sent me 2 bags, and one of the bags was for me. Like I could pick a bag and then pick a bag for giveaway and pick a bag for myself. She sent me 2. So this is the bag I've picked for myself, and this is a what do you call it? Honey hive. Oh my god, it's a beehive. Sorry, suddenly it just like slipped my mind. So this is a beautiful beehive fabric and a very, very beautiful project bag. It can easily fit three or four skeins easily. I mean, if you, yeah, I think it should. It's a pretty big, decent size project bag. And this is the one I picked for myself. And the one for the giveaway, and I'm sorry for the crinkling. This is the beautiful sweater quantity sized bag for the giveaway. And you can see, oops, that's the name of the store, Delightful Works. And it's an Etsy store. And I will leave a link to Susan's Etsy store in the description box. And Susan has very kindly, so if you don't want to wait for the giveaway and you want to buy project bags, because how can we ever have enough, she has very kindly given a free shipping code for people in the US. Unfortunately, the free shipping is not for international buyers, but the people in the United States can get a bag for free. I mean, shipped for free. Get a bag shipped for free using the code delightful. And I'll put it on the screen here what the shipping code is. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm sorry if I'm fumbling. I am not a professional giveaway person. So thank you so much, Susan. I really love your bag, and I'm really excited about using this, and it's so beautifully made. Like, I know I make I sew a little and I make bags, but my sewing is not this neat. I have a lot of practice to do. So thank you so much, Susan. I'm really excited about using my new project bag. And similarly, I had another bag maker reach out to me, and Anne, who is from Oregon. Anne is starting an Etsy store soon, but I don't think she has already started. But her name is Kukia27. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but Anne M. Caps is the name of the bag maker. And Anne also sent me 2 bags, and she kindly asked me to keep one for myself and then use one for the giveaway. So my Metenis pullover, the bright green one, is sitting in this beautiful bag which is blowing out completely. This is the bag I picked for myself, and has made a very, very beautiful bag, and I'm so pleased with this. Like, it's a nice drawstring bag. I'm very happy with this. Oh, it's blowing out. I can't even do anything because it's so bright. But the one that I'm going to give away is this beautiful, gorgeous purple. Look at that print. It is so pretty. I love this bag so much. So this one, it's nicely lined, and Anne has put her store name inside. That is so, so thoughtful and so beautiful. So this is the second bag that I'll be giving away. I'm just showing the prices here. As the 3-month mark and 6-month mark, all these milestones come closer, I'll actually show what I'm giving away, because I'm not just gonna send out these bags, but I'm gonna add a skein of yarn from my stash as well for the giveaway. But because right now all my yarn is in storage and everything, I really couldn't decide which ones I want to give away. So that will happen as we get closer to the actual giveaway. But I just really wanted to show these beautiful project bags that were sent to me and are part of the giveaway, and also create some excitement about the giveaway. Yeah, so thank you so much, Anne and Susan, for sending such beautiful bags our way and for donating these prizes to the giveaway. Thank you so much, Selena, for donating the mini advent for the giveaway. and as and when I get more prizes, I will show that on the podcast here and talk more about them. But yeah, and if you remember, Susan's store Delightful Works she has a free shipping code for people in the US, and the code is delightful. I think I'm gonna put that on the screen. Okay, so I think that was everything I had. Oh, giveaway winners. Hold on. So if you watched my previous episode, I was giving away 2 gift cards to the Hobie website, and I've picked the winners. The first winner is Roxana Shively, and Roxana left a very beautiful comment on my video, and I'm gonna put Roxana, your name on the screen here. And the second giveaway winner, the gift card winner, is the name is called Happy Ever Yarn, and I'm not sure what the name of the user is, but thank you so much for your beautiful comment as well. I must mention, people are supposed to kind of reach out to me to say that they won, and so I can like fulfill my portion of the giveaway, because the episode before last where I was doing the pattern giveaway, I had 3 winners picked out and I didn't really hear from them. So if you heard your name, you know that you've won, please reach out to me, because if you don't by the next episode, I'm gonna have to pick out other names and then do that giveaway again. But just letting you know, so Roxana and Happy Ever Yarn, please reach out to me, let me know you've won. You can send me an email on skeinsofdreamsknits@gmail.com, or leave a comment here saying that you're the winner, and I'll put my email in the response so that you can like send me an email, and then I will fulfill my portion of the giveaway. So yeah, so I think that was everything. I did speak a lot today, but I think my previous episode was very long. I had to like cut out portions of it just because I couldn't release an episode that was 1 hour 40 minutes. That's just ridiculous. I'm not sure how long I've spoken for today. I think it's definitely under an hour, because I've been recording for an hour and I'm going to cut out some portions of this as well. But yeah, so that's what's been happening, and like I said, we're moving next month, so we're packing up all our stuff and I'm kind of in the middle of everything. So my next episode will also, I think, be 3 weeks at least, because I have to find a good weekend or some random day in between, like today, where I have some time to record. And then it's just not the recording, because I have to edit it and then upload it. So please bear with me while I figure out the schedule. And then we'll have exciting episodes coming up, because I'm gonna talk about, I'm actually planning to record as I set up my craft room, and then you can see first I have to paint a wall in that room, because a little girl used to live there, and so the wall is, one accent wall is like pink and grey or something, so I have to paint over it. So I'm planning to pick out a paint that wall, then set up my yarn storage stuff. I really want to have a nice like cubbies or something where I can display my yarn, and because it's a room in itself, I can shut the door and not have the cats be all over my yarn, because the problem here is that if I display my yarn anywhere, my cats will eat it. So yeah, I'm really excited about, I'm not gonna like, maybe I'll just take like a time lapse or hyperlapse video and then I'll show you little snippets of it, but it'll be really I'm really excited about that. And also, this might be the last time I'm recording from this apartment, and so maybe the next episode will be from the new house, so I'm excited about that as well. Thank you so much for all the love, for all the support, for watching all my videos, and I've made such a beautiful community of friends. Like I've met so many people through this YouTube like podcasting and everything. So I'm so grateful and so thankful, and I'm looking forward to moving to Pittsburgh. And then actually, I've met people online who are in Pittsburgh through this podcast. Like I've come to know them, and so it'll be so exciting to actually have a local knitting group to meet up with sometimes and knit with them. And I've picked out my local yarn store. I have never been there, so I'm planning to go there as soon as I'm able to, once I settle down and everything. And I'm so excited about it. So a lot of fun stuff happening, a lot of plans for the future. Definitely watch this space. All right. Thank you so much. If I continue anymore, I will just keep blabbering on without a plan, like, and just keep talking nonsense. So I think I will leave now, and thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, happy crafting. Bye.